Welcome to the Head Guy podcast. As always, this podcast has been sponsored by Cards in Qatar, the number one website for all your cards, birthday cards, greeting cards, farewell cards, sorry you're leaving cards, get well cards. And there's an offer for this podcast. Use THG10 for your 10% discount on your first order. Do it now. Go to the website. And our second sponsor is Mahaba, the number one destination guide here in Qatar. Pick up your copy from any supermarket or go online and find out everything you need to know about Qatar. So, I have a very special guest. His name is Enad. Welcome, sir.
Welcome to. Thank you.
I want to start off. I love going on LinkedIn profiles and being the man you are. And I love so the title underneath your main heading is strategist, developer, and visionary.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand?
It came from a lot of things that I went through. And this is, you always keep exploring things about yourself. And one of the things that I've actually enjoyed learning about myself is that I enjoy the first 20% of everything. Every project that I go in, every piece of work that I operate into, the first 20% of it, when you start the designing, when you work on how it's going to look like, who's going to work on it, how are they going to operate it? This is where I thrive. This is where I find myself. This is my forte, And I also realized that I like to set the paths for how things are supposed to go. So this is where I think I have the vision of how things are supposed to go. I actually enjoy putting a strategy of who's supposed to do all of these things. And I like to work with people to develop these paths together. So this is where this trifecta, I guess, came from. And from a lot of different projects that I worked on, I got this feeling and sense of that I like to do these things. So this is how I'd like to position myself.
But I am curious because, okay, the first 20%, what happens to the rest of that percentage? Have you explored that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So taking things from A to Z is something that you have to do. Coming from a management consulting background and working with projects, this is something that you have to do, and you have to enjoy doing it. But you find yourself in one piece of it. So this is where I actually find myself in the first 20%. But the rest of it, what I enjoy is working with people on it. So like we've set the path. Okay, let's go through it together now. So that's the part that I enjoy, not the actual. I don't enjoy the destination. I enjoy the journey. No,
I hear you.
Yeah.
But aren't all entrepreneurs like that? They love the thrill of starting something. They love that first 20%, and then things get a little bit boring. Things get a little bit tedious. Same, and then they're looking for something else to do for the next 20% of something new.
Absolutely. And this is where it ends. When you think of a startup, which is like how do you build a startup? So the first 20% of it is actually putting things on the ground and actually making it go live. And then when you start going into that stage of things are happening every single day. So this is where you go into a conventional business. This is what things that happen, because how do you find a startup? The rapid change, the rapid growth, and the problem solving that happens every single day.
Yeah.
So once these three things are done, you're a business. So you sit on it, you're a CEO, you're chairman, that's how it's go, and then middle management operates and senior management operates, and then you sit and look at a bottom line or a top line, which is something I don't think any entrepreneur wants to do.
No, exactly. I think that's what I found hard as well. When I started my business, I love the thrill of starting new things, maybe introducing things within the business. But then it got to a point where, okay, now what? And then I was looking elsewhere. But then you still, when you are involved with the company still, and you haven't assigned someone to run it on a day-to-day basis, you can't leave it. You can't be drawn to anything else, because then
Sure.
things will start dropping off, because everyone thinks, oh, well, the boss isn't here, so,
Sure. And that's what's enjoyable about it. These different hats, different tasks that are you doing, the different problems, like left, right, and center, that you're tackling every single day. So it's not a problem related. How do you increase my sales every single day? But no. So today I have a problem with sales, and I have a problem with my cash flows. How do I manage this? And these are the multiple hats that you wear as an entrepreneur or as a founder at the start of your journey. Then when the pieces start falling in together, you end up with one problem: how to keep this alive for the second day. So that's what's making it different.
No, and it I always remember my journey and the beginning, and wearing all those different hats, and it was a relief to take off one hat and give it to someone else. Okay, you can run with that now. Sure. I don't like that. That's the worst hat I want to wear. All right, I've got 3 or 4 still on my head. Let's keep going. And then you've got that opportunity to hand over the next hat, and then the next hat, and then the next hat. But on my journey, there was a point where, I always relate to it as climbing a mountain. My journey was like climbing a mountain. I'm at the bottom. I'm looking up at this mountain, and it's just like, yes, I'm going to climb that mountain. I think I've got all the skills, or if I haven't, I'm going to learn as I carry on climbing the mountain, and then people will join me, etc., etc. But I got to that point where I reached the top of the mountain, and I've handed off all the hats, as we discussed, and it's just like, oh,
okay, now
what? Now what? All right, beautiful scenery, etc. But I've given all the responsibilities to everyone else. The company's running the way I envisioned it. Now what?
And going down is the easy part. That's not.
Well,
that's
it wasn't.
Not fun.
Well, it wasn't. It was the COVID that literally threw me off the mountain and went, okay, you're off the mountain. I'm going to kick you off the mountain. And it, to deal with that, as well as, when I reached the top of the mountain, and then having to deal with falling off the mountain, was just, well, you went through COVID as well. So,
sure.
And I'm sure you knew a lot of people that went through that experience.
Sure.
But we can touch on that later. I'm just curious, when you were, so you did a bachelor's degree in economics, finance, and business.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any vision of what you wanted to do after that?
Oh, okay. So, and I want to touch base on why I did that. So I come from a middle class family. I'm the youngest amongst 5. So yeah,
5.
two boys and 2 girls, and
so you were the baby. You were the baby of the bunch.
Yeah. So I was the youngest, and when I went to college, or when finished high school and going into college, I looked up and I saw 2 doctors and 2 engineers, and I said, okay, do I want to do this? And one part of it is, no, it's time for me. First of all, my grade didn't allow me to do that, so that was not a choice. By you had to achieve some sort of a level of marks so you can get to engineering school, or
and you didn't have that.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And so I had 2 options.
And I just want to stop you,
please.
With your older siblings, was there some expectation from your parents of what?
Absolutely.
So did they fulfill that? Or what was expected? So little brother at the end didn't really matter what he did.
No, no, it did. It's more on my father's side rather than my mother's side, because I was the spoiled one on my mother's side. But then,
well, I wasn't going to say anything normally.
But then on my father's side, he had the expectation that I have to actually benchmark with the rest of my brothers.
Oh.
I'd like to hope that now he's fulfilled, hopefully. And
is he still around?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes.
So you haven't had that conversation yet?
No, we haven't. But I have some sort of feelings, But then no, it comes around in some moments that you see that he is fulfilled, he's proud, and I'd like to keep him that all over the all the time. But at that time, and I sensed, no, I don't wanna do this. I wanna go for something different, and one of the options was going into business and economics, and actually figuring that out, because at that time also, having 2 engineers in the family, they were actually going through the difficulties of the job market. Now, currently back at home, it's one of the majors that's oversaturated in terms
really?
of finding a job. It's going to take you years to find a job. So I feel blessed for having that support at that time to go into something different, and I really enjoyed it. When I 4 years at the university level, I've kind of enjoyed it. I've achieved much more than before, and I was looking for something different, because I am not following the path of the others who went, which I mean my brothers and sisters, but then that part of the mysteriousness that's coming out of it. So what do I do? Do I go to become an accountant, or do I work at a bank, or what's going to happen? How do I do this? So but I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the 4 years at the university. And
Well, what was it? What was it that
so the experience, one part of it,
going
because
to university?
yes, I had to commute maybe for 1 hour 15 minutes, 1 hour 30 every single morning, every single evening, going back from. So that's one, making that new friendships and getting something to experience, coming from a school environment, going to university, coming from a middle class family. Things are different. You got to experience things on a different level. Now you're on your own, you have some sort of responsibilities. No one's going to ask you, hey, how much did you get on your term exam? So these things doesn't happen, so
No, because they really don't know what is going on at university. Yeah.
Exactly. So the whole thing's out of it. And I was blessed on making some friendships until now. It's 15, 16 years ago, and I have some really good friends coming out of university level, which is something rare you can find now.
So I'm just curious, when you graduated, what you walk out of the campus, and what are you doing? Are you applying for work, or are there, because in the UK they have milk rounds where big companies go around and look at who had the good grades and pick the best students for their organization? Did you have anything like that?
Yeah. So that's actually a fun story. When I finished, my university was up north. I don't say middle of nowhere, but it was somewhere near the desert.
Okay.
So I've decided that when I finish, I just want to go home and lie down for 3 months and just get my color back. I was like sunburned from the summers and the university and all of that. So I just want to sit down, relax, and see things how it goes. One day a friend of me called me and said, listen, hey, there is a US company who came in, they set up a shop nearby, and they're looking for a fresh graduate with good English. And I said, okay, because English is a second language, in back home it's a second language. You don't get everyone who actually can hold up conversations back then. And I said, listen, I don't want to do this. I still have my 3 months that I want to...
Still want to chill. I just want to relax.
Yeah. And he said, listen, no, I'm going to call you up in the morning, and if you're awake, I'm going to take you with me. I'm going to go and submit my CV, coding him, and then you just come with me for the ride.
What a good friend.
Yeah. And I actually did that, and in the morning he ended up coming and picking me up and drafting my own CV. So he made a CV for me and said, no, we're gonna apply alone. And we've went, I think it was 3 months interview process, and you had to do some English exam, you had to do some IQ exam, and I used to do all of these things. I've been blessed also to have a good English language from a young age. And these IQ tests.
Why did you feel that was important? Did you feel that was going to come?
I would say circumstances aligned that I have that English language. We were one of the first families back then to get a PC. That was 1996. So and I grow up on that, and I grow up on actually doing these commands on DOS. If you remember, looking up for a game, or that's actually what made it. That's what made it, and actually it turns out to be very, very beneficial moving down the road. So circling back to that, and we went in and we did the whole interview process, and there was two positions opened, one for a business support officer and another one for an HR officer. And they just wanted to take one by one. And they gave us the choice, where do you want to go? And I don't want to be HR. So with all due respect to everyone who operates in HR, but
Absolutely.
I
Don't take it.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't see myself there. And I said, okay, and I'll take business support. And then actually, I took the job, but my friend didn't accept the job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we ended up, that's how, I don't know if it's ironic or khalas, it's fate, you have, this is something coming your way. You have to take it in any different possible way.
Absolutely.
So
Did he, by the way, did he end up getting a job?
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he was all right.
Yeah, he's all right. And we're actually still very good friends up till this moment.
Yeah.
So. And that's actually where a different journey came in, and I don't know if you want to address this now, but we can talk about this later. But this is how the shift happened, from why the economics and business things happened.
So was that with so what was the company called?
And the first one, Migrate.
So that is Migrate. That's where our journey in LinkedIn begins. And you were you the regional hub director? Or
That's by the time I left.
Oh, by
I
the
spent
time you
with
left.
them 6-7 years, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, you were. You were there
Yes.
a long time.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed that experience?
Sure.
Hold on, there was a hesitation, and then it was like, sure. No, come on, Enad.
Okay.
Look,
So-
this is where you tell the truth because it's only
Absolutely.
you and me.
Absolutely.
Are they still going? Migrate?
Yeah, they're still operating until now.
Okay.
And before actually going into this, and I just want to say something is, the most important job you have in your life is the first job you land. And this is where you need to be very selective in terms of where do you start. And I, up till this moment, I still have a piece of my heart belongs to that company, because I joined in, as I said, as a business support officer, doing admin work, and but things were different, from day one, like literally day one. I just went in 9 a.m. in the morning. They were like a new office, only 2 employees in the office. And the CEO and founder of the company was sitting in the middle. I just popped my head and I saw an American guy talking on Skype. And I said, oh, okay, so this is not going to be easy. And I sat back till someone from those 2 employees came in. Hey, are you the new employee? And I said, yes, I am. So this is your desk. This is your station. And settle here. You're going to have a call from your manager telling you what to do. Surprisingly, that call didn't came in. Then I had the CEO approaching me and says, hey, I'm your client, and I just landed my first contract, and I've rented an office from you. So how would you treat me? And I don't know. What am I supposed to do? So, and actually from that day, moving on how did I react to that? I got to be reporting to the CEO, who has to be 35 years plus experience, investment banker, management consultant, working a broker, a Wall Street guy. So he's actually the CEO of the company, and I got to be directly reporting him from day one. Hold
on, but he was in your office?
Yes. He was sitting there in the new office.
And he stayed there?
He stayed there. He used to report there from every single week.
What brought him to Jordan in the first place? Why did he?
Okay, so he was working, that's the US company that established recently in Jordan. He was working on a very nice model of, operational platform, one-stop shop services for small business enterprises, large companies, foreign businesses who wants to outsource, localize, so on and so forth. So he had the full package model.
Wow. And he literally took you under his wing?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I spent that way 6 years, and I'm not shy to say that everything that I am right now, he made an impact on it, and I'll stay grateful for the rest of my life. Even though, the journey over these 6 years we had some ups and downs. We didn't end up on good terms.
Oh, really?
On the best terms. I'd like to say that we ended up on good terms, but not the best terms. But I still hold a place for him as a teacher, as someone who taught me something.
Why is that? Do you think on your journey you learned and then you could contest if you didn't feel that things were right, so then you were at loggerheads because, the little student became a man and felt that he had to have his say?
That was major part of it, but then there was some sort of a culture conflict is a very is a very big word. I don't want to label the situation as is, but there was some certain situations that could have not been handled the way he wanted to handle them.
Right.
One of the things that he loved to create problems just to solve them, and things are going smooth. We're towards the end of the year, we're achieving good, and then he comes up and ruin everything just to start from the beginning. Maybe that's the way he operated, and this is actually was one of the main reasons that how we learned to operate on different models, because I remember every single year we just used to shred the organizational structure of the company. This was a 150 employee company, so it's not a small structure that you just could shred and then build something, do it December to January, and you have to teach all of the employees, and then you have to manage them on how to operate on it, and then you have to measure how do they operate on it. So it had an amazing learning curve into it, but then that was not Wall Street. This is how you operate in Wall Street, but this was not on Wall Street. Because however you treat your employees, was going to reflect on your clients, and then this is bad to business.
Absolutely.
So you're actually as an owner, as a shareholder, as a CEO, your main client is your employees. And if you treat them well, they'll treat your clients well. So that's how business grows.
No, I'm glad you're saying that. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Within that 6 years, you said it's very important to choose the right company to start off with, but I always feel from my experience, because I think I worked for about 14 or 15 companies until I started Ginger Camel, but I learned from the very worst to the very best. You learn whatever situation you're thrown into. You're not wasting your time, because you can see whether you've got a bad boss that, okay, that isn't someone that I want to be like. That, where is he going wrong? What isn't he not doing right? And then you learn from the best, how they deal with people, how they have a persona, how they bring positivity into the room, etc., and you learn that as well. So, I always feel that, and you had 6 years where you had someone that literally was showing you the ropes from either end.
Sure. Yeah. And, as equal as it's important to pick your first job is, the first boss is also as important to that. The first direct supervisor is also as important.
Yeah, because you've never had any experience in the working environment. So
sure.
I remember my first experience in the work environment. I had someone above me that was meant to guide me, but it was like he was jealous. So he didn't want to tell me anything. And it was just like, what? It was just like, no, you've been to university. You know what you're doing. Get on with it. It was just like, no, I've never worked before in my life. All right, I had part-time jobs, but not a proper job.
Sure. And that's exactly because it's, it shapes you. And it shapes the rest of your career, and it depends on how much you spend on that in that place. And maybe for different people it's different, because sometimes you need the job and you stay regardless of whatever circumstances is there, and sometimes you feel maybe if it's not that important, you have the luxury of maybe time, of something that you can put your back on, and in terms of that you don't have a job, in terms of looking for the I don't want to say perfect job, because I don't think there is a perfect job, but the most suitable job for you. It's going to take you time, and maybe, and this is one of the most important thing you learn at the first job, is when to move on from your first job.
Yeah, but you say that. What I learned as well, being a youngster, is that you have that flexibility. You have no responsibilities, but you are working with people that have families, that have mortgages, have, loans on cars, etc. So there's more of I've got to stick with this job. I don't have the flexibility of living. But when you're younger, it's just like, okay, yeah, done my time. Where shall I go next?
And at that part of the world, I think it doesn't always work like this. But then what makes you realize, with the and again, this was a very blessed period for me, because I've my learning curve never went down except for the end, towards the end. And that by that time, this is where I actually, I would be very honest, and I say that I've put the sticks in the wheels and I just to leave, and I had to make that decision, because by that time I think I've offered too much for that place, that I've actually felt that I deserve to do my own thing now. And when that was not an option, I said, if that's not an option, I'm not going to do anything else. And it's my way or the highway. And I've actually got to do, I've got to take a journey through that highway, and then and then went to someplace else. But I think.
But I'm just curious, when you started at Migrate, did it feel like a small business to start off with? Because as you said, there was only two of you and the boss, and then you grew. Yeah. So, that must have been a learning curve as well. Absolutely. To see procedures being put in place. Absolutely.
Actually, with that company we started with, part of it was the real estate, part of it was the services. We had a couple of clients on the services. We had 5 to 6 clients on the real estate. And that, when I joined, that was mid 2012. And by that time, the company was going through, a Kitty Hawk effect, the launching, the rapid growth, and I got to be part of this, not on the backside of it, but actually one of the leading cogs into that machine of development. And again, blessed to be there. And I think this is what, made you feel that I've done a lot. I've been an integral cog of this machine for every downturn or upturn, upslide or downslide that this company went through. And I've took a lot of things into my shoulders, and I've had to do this. But again, this is where the learning comes. And by that time, or during that period, this was very, very fairly compensating financial wise. As a 24 years old or 25 years old, the compensation that came from that, I've known no one who got that in my time, in my age, and my peers.
Yeah, and that can be hard.
Absolutely.
To leave and go on to something else.
Absolutely. But then with that amount of compensation comes the expectations that you have to.
Absolutely.
That you have
I'm
to
paying
do
you
extra.
this much.
Exactly.
You can work all hours.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to do 9 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours.
Yeah. So,
and you get burned out easily, because you have your fingers up to so many holes in the wall, and being a part of that a group of individuals who got to start the things, that means that you either know too much to be able to help in every different part of it, or you have you're staying there because there is no one to replace you. And it's very it's how do I put this, it's very hard to be on either ends of it, because you're gonna have your hands busy every while and then.
So how was it? How did you pull yourself away? How did you
hard work. I used to do hard work, and I used to enjoy it. Again, being at 25 years old with that compensation, you have to balance things around. But then what made it very different, again, the learning. And I got to travel. I got to travel a lot by that time. I used Saudi, Tunisia, UAE, you name it. And I literally used to live off a suitcase. Like, I had my passport in my laptop bag, and I just go into the office in the morning and said, no, we have a meeting in Saudi, you have to travel. Okay, just pick me up, drop me off to the airport, and I travel the same day, come back the same day, spend 2 days, 3 days. And things towards the end of it, things got different, because by that time I went into a family mode. I get married, I had a newborn coming in, so constant flying like this, traveling, no, it's not gonna work.
No,
having a newborn coming in 2 months, building a family, establishing a family, you need some sort of how do I say this? You need some sort of balance. In things. You have to hold the stick from the middle. And this is something I got to learn the hard way.
Well, in regards to every time you came back from a travel trip, a business trip, that you got the look.
I even before you travel, but that, at that time, especially that my wife and I used to work at the same company, so this is where we got to meet. This is where we got to know each other, and that was how I used to do before even we go into that relationship. So it was fairly accepted, but then even if there's no acceptance on the other side of it, you yourself, you have to feel that type of commitment, because okay, now I'm not committed to the travel, I'm not committed to the cause, I just want to do the things that's right, and but it was a lot of traveling, like even and I don't know if you've done this or no, but at some point the stewardess knows me, like knew me. You've traveled with us yesterday, are you coming back, are you going, when are you traveling again? So that was a, like you have a 2-3 flights a week. That's even health wise, then that's not good.
I'm interested, health wise, let's look at that.
Yeah,
how have you doing the business that you're doing, and all the different roles that you've participated, focusing on entrepreneurship, etc., how do you look after yourself?
I don't.
There you go. End of.
No. This is where we end up. Okay, thank you. No, but I'm bad at that. I try just to do some exercise every while and then. I try to stay healthy. I try to every while and then go into that diet of the Ramadan diet once a year, and but I try, and I used to be much thinner than this. I don't know, but the camera adds 10 pounds just to make sure.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sorry.
I have 3 cameras pointed at me.
No, I'm just curious because, your tagline is strategist, developer, visionary, and I've come across entrepreneurs and businesses, owners, etc., but, and I know what it's like to start your own business and how much energy and effort goes into that, and how much, yes, your health is pushed to one side because you're literally focused on running the business, achieving, and trying to look after your family at the same time, keep your wife happy, etc., so there's no time for health generally, and it can fall by the wayside, but it is important, because if you're not healthy, then you're not thinking 100%, you're not firing on all cylinders 100%.
Absolutely, and you need that to do the other. You need one to do the other. And you need to be healthy, and you need to have some sort of a good burners so you can burn through the night.
Absolutely,
this is how you say it.
Yeah.
But again, having that 20s spark, that would get you through these times.
Very true. Very true. When you're younger, you've got more energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You keep pushing. You have a good stamina. You have good, how do I say this? You have a good threshold. You have a very high threshold of being tired and spending, these long nights in the office and all of that. So you get to do this. But when you, at some point, you have to choose that. And I'm actually trying to, currently and very recently, because we had a couple of changes on a personal level, I'm trying to build some time into that. It's not that late. It's never late.
It's never late.
But most importantly is, again, and this is something that's very highly disregarded, which is mental health. And
no, that's where I always start. Forget about the personal trainer. Start with the mental health first. Start there. That's the biggest muscle. That's the one that literally controls everything that functions with you. muscles, mental thought, etc., etc. Start there.
Absolutely. But then at that time, at that young age, you don't have much, I don't say knowledge, but you don't believe that it is this important to have to look after your mental health. You don't know, at some point you don't even know what a mental health is.
No, you think you're invulnerable anyway. You think that you're going to live forever, and
sure,
you're going to abuse yourself.
Sure, but then when you go into that burnout, when you go into these sleepless nights, when you go into these, going into the office with the mood of, no, I'm not going to talk to anyone today. I'm just going to do my emails. I'm just going to do my Excel sheets and then leave home, go back home and then sleep. I'm not going to even talk to my wife. I just want to sit up or sit down, stare at the wall, have my empty box open, and then stare at it. Nothing. So at these times, these are side effects of a burnout. You're burned out, and it's because of something. Because if you didn't have much or enough regards to your mental health. And this is because, again, by that time you're fairly compensated, you're working a good job, you're developing, there is a career development, and this is what you're focusing on. No, I'm just gonna work for 9 hours a day. I'm just gonna go maybe go out with some friends, maybe have a drink or do something, or go back at home just for do some sort of a video games, and that's it. I sleep, do the same thing again. So, and by that time, you learn. And I would this is how I've done it. I learned it the hard way. When you do the burnout, and this is where you start realizing, there is so many things to care about other than the diet and what did you eat for today, and then how did you sleep for the day, which is what's going on with you, how's the environment treating you, how do you actually feel every single morning when you wake up. And at some point, remembering all of that, and it was in this period and different other periods, you just wake up in the morning and trying to find an excuse not to go to work again, because you're burned out, because you don't have enough fuel to take you through the day.
I'm just curious, how did you, when did you come to that realization that, you needed to look after your mental health, and where did you start? Where did you start looking at, how can I improve that?
Okay, so this was on a personal level, throughout my relationship and marriage. By that time, I don't want to be so dramatic and saying everything was falling apart, but some good things were starting to fall apart, and then I couldn't keep control because you only have two hands. And then there is the relationship, there is the work, there is the friends, there is the financial aspect of everything towards these three things or four things. And by that time, this was actually prior to having our first child. This was maybe 2017. And this is where we both sat down and agreed, no, we need to talk to someone. We need to see how things are moving. We need to talk to someone who went through this. And, this was one of the most enlightening experiences that I had, just because of the first 15 minutes of that conversation. We went into, I don't want to say couple counseling, but there was some sort of a place where you go to, where you talk to other couples. And we sat in a room, 5 couples, and they went by order, and we were the last ones. And every single problem or every single cause of an issue they had, my wife and I, we used to look at each other and say, okay, we do this. This is what happened with us yesterday. And we to the second or third couple, we started laughing, because this is not a coincidence. Like every single other problem that the others were having. So this means that this is okay. This means that we're okay. This means that things are going to be all right. We're not alone in this. We just need to put our things together. Just make sure to realize the size of the problem, realize where is it coming from, what's the grassroots of the issue, and then you start working on it one step at a time, and you start solving or answering. I don't want to say solving, but answering one question at a time, because answering questions is much more important towards solving the problem itself, because this is where you know what is the problem. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly. It's like to be able to put it all out on the table rather than keeping it in your head and going over it again and again and, going stir crazy. You actually verbalize it, put it down on the table for you both to see, and then discuss it. It becomes more clearer, and also you can hear yourself verbally talking about it, and then you're probably answering the question anyway.
Sure. And this is how you actually realize the actual volume or the actual size of the problem. Because if you keep it up all in your hand, it's gonna be all in your head. It's gonna keep getting bigger every single second of thinking about it, and this is not right. This is not how you solve things. This is actually you put these on a table, and then you realize how small are they, and then you realize how easy is it to solve them, and then you can move forward. You can put this behind your back and then go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah, and you're working together rather than just yourself
Absolutely.
trying
Absolutely.
to answer those questions. And also it was great that you saw other couples going through the same experiences and realizing that you're not alone.
Sure.
You're not different. You're not unusual. That these are common things that, when verbalized,
Sure, and this
people are
is
going
actually this makes the volume of the problem before actually talking about it. When you hear other people talking about their problems, and then you see that I'm not unique. There is not, and there is nothing different or nothing wrong with what's happening with us. It's happening with so many people. So this is ordinary. Once you realize that this is not a big problem, this is I would say 50% of solving it. Realizing that this is solvable at the first place, because if you don't have that realization, you wouldn't go into that place. So yeah, I think that's what made it different by that time.
And has your journey with your wife got deeper now that you communicate and
Sure.
literally show your problem, share your issue?
Absolutely. It's and one of these things happen because we're the same age. We're the same age, going through the same mental development, going through the same life cycle in terms of how much do you grow and what age and what things do you face. That was part of it, because we're going through the same thing together, and this what made it actually hard at the start of who's supposed to overtime who. But then that was not the question, and the question was, how was I supposed to help you triumph and go achieve your goals and do all of these things. And I think once we realize that things are different on a multiple scales.
Very good. So going back to your career, how did you end up here in Qatar?
That's a so Qatar was a dream.
Really?
Yeah. Since even
Since when?
Since the World Cup announcement.
Okay, 2010. Okay,
Yes.
even when you're at uni.
Sure. Because at that time, I'm a diehard Argentina fan. 2010, Germany 4-0, and all of these things, and you don't get to watch that again. But again, the realization comes with that you get to experience that thing, and it's an easy way to do. Qatar is a 2 hours flight from Jordan, and things are different, and you can be there. And I've had that as a dream, but when did I start working on it? Maybe 2015, when I used to be in Saudi. I've got to introduced to the Gulf of how do they business over here, and then started building connections, getting to know people, so on and so forth. But when it actually materialized in 2000, prior to COVID, and this was the first phone call that I've got here from Qatar, which is, we have a job. We want you to come. Here's my CV. I've done first interview, second interview, kaza. And then COVID hits and radio silence for 2 years.
Oh, really? So you weren't even in the country. You were just going through the stages.
Sure.
And you thought, yep, here we are.
COVID.
Hello, COVID.
And that actually, the first call I've got was in June or July 2019. and I've got to come to the country December 2021. So this is what I landed in Qatar December 4th. I remember December 4th, 2021, working with the Ministry of, by that time was MOTC, Transportation and Communication, but then there was a shift in ministries, and now we're MCIT, Communication Information Technology. Working on leading the programs for their incubation center. So this is pretty much on what I do for entrepreneurs, startups, and founders.
And what kind of inspires you to, what makes you excited to do that role? What?
I love helping people. I love working with others. I love figuring out things with people. I love how do collaborative thinking could achieve amazing results. And this is part of the first 20% I enjoy of everything.
Well,
we
started. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I just don't enjoy it. I just make sure that I enjoy it with other people who are doing it. So that's where I actually and this is where I fit within this profile, because I spend a lot of time with the founders. I spend a lot of time with the entrepreneurs, and figuring things out with them, sharing experiences from a different sides of the table that I got to be throughout my experiences. I've got to be on the consulting side of it. I've got to be part of the supporting organization part of it, on incubation, acceleration. I've got to be an entrepreneur. I had my own business, and I've got to lead my own business, and lead a business. Sorry, not my own business. I founded my own business, and I've got to lead another working startup, being a general manager for a startup for some time. So you got to experience the same thing from different perspectives, and this is what actually builds on the block by block experiences of how to do one thing, of what are the different ways to do things. And this is at some point, and this is something that I've used to go by when someone asked me how to do things. And I said, no one knows how to do or how to succeed at something. But what I can tell you how not to fail at something, because I tried it, because I failed at something. And I'm going to tell you that if you do it this way, and I'm going to help you figure out how it's going to work out with you. Because there's no one way of succeeding, because you can do things right at a very multiple situations and multiple ways of doing it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm curious, because there are your organization. There's quite a few incubation centers, etc., etc. But as you say, there's no one blueprint for success. So how do you know when someone comes with their idea, someone comes with their vision, and they've got their passion? All right, they're naive in aspects of how to run a business, etc., etc. But how do you know which one is going to be right and which one is going to be wrong? Which one's going to work, which one isn't? Or that's not your job. You literally, okay, show us the blueprint. We'll give you the tools, and away you go.
No, actually, I don't think this is anyone's job to tell anyone that this is going to work, this is not going to work. Because no one knows it all. That's one part of it. There's no one can actually decide whether a business, they can have a gut feeling about it. They can say that I've seen similar businesses doing this, but they did not succeed. But you didn't see this founder, and this is what's most important in a startup. You didn't see this founder doing this thing in this way.
This is it. Everyone's different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where you come in. This is where you actually help guiding them to find that path. You don't set the path for them. You don't actually tell them do 1, 2, 3, but then you help them to realize that 1 comes before 2. But they have to set their own ABCs. You tell them that no, prior to that you have to do A, then you do B, then you do C, and this is, and again this is no fixed rules about this. So it's just a playbook, in the football match or an NFL match. So this is where you actually have a book where you have several lineups for one play. So if you're 7 yards or you're 1-0 down before at the minute 75 of a whatever the World Cup end, and then the coach comes up or the manager comes up with a with a book, and now for an iPad, with the different possible lineups, with the different possible playings that they can put and implement within these 15 minutes left. And this is what you do. Like people who operate in the same place as we do or as I do, your main thing is to keep populating the playbook. You keep knowing and recording things that did work and things that didn't work. So when you talk to someone, you realize that actually this is a very similar situation that you're operating. And I've seen a startup who done this 1, 2, 3, and they've tried doing it this way and this way and this way. Maybe this way would work here. And this is where you actually, this is where you add value to the startup. This is where you add value to the founder, because the founder knows that he needs to do some sort of customer validation before building an MVP. He needs to do some sort of surveys, but the actual of how to do that, the how to put the realizations and the findings that you come out into actual an actionable course of moving things. This is where you come as a consultant, mentor, coach, a fellow entrepreneur, working with them and guiding them throughout the road.
Is there any time where, your experience and you see an entrepreneur doing something that you did similarly, does it bring up some emotion within you?
Absolutely. But I tried. One of the main things is that when I established my own business, I thought by then the time was right. I established my own business by September 2020, so 9 months into COVID, 6 months into COVID. And I thought that would be the best time. I thought that I've built some sort of good connection with different ecosystems, with different business communities. And I thought, okay, so this is, and it also was built on outsourcing just as part of a contextual background. So by that time, businesses were actually more inclined to outsource because of cutting the cost, and there is no real estate happening. Everyone was working from home. Business volume is going down, so you get to do some sort of outsourcing if you want to maintain that business status of operating. So I thought that was the right time. I thought I have the right access to the right connections. But then 2 months into it, 3 months into it, I got the biggest slap on the face at that time. And I've realized that even if you have the right business model, even if you have the right connections, the timing is also like, even though there was a problem and I had a solution. So the problem solution fit was there. And my product was suitable for the market, but was not fit in terms of timing. Because even at that time that companies were more inclined to outsource, they were less inclined to spend money, spend cash flows, because no one knew what's going to happen. No one knows when the lockdown is down. And by that time, and back home, there was some sort of regulations that you can't let anyone off. You can't lay off no employees. So you have to keep paying salaries. So CEOs and decision makers, they've had an option. No, I'm going to keep my cash in the bank and just going to do manage of how do I operate on that. So and when that comes, when you see these. And I used to be that enthusiastic person, and then I wanna jump into the market. Just let me go into the market.
Yeah.
But then when I went in and I realized, no, there is some sort of research, thinking about it, building a strategy behind it of actually how to go into the market. And this is where back then, this is where I started doing a lot of reading and a lot of knowledge seeking about actually how to develop a strategy for going to the market, because that's where I got my first slap, like at the doorstep of the market. So and this is how you build it. And then again, now coming in, you see these fresh entrepreneurs having that 7 slides pitch deck saying that they have the best idea in the world, and I'm sure they do. I hope at some point you would have the best idea in the world. But even that, it's there are some sort of rules that, or not rules, there are some sort of precedents that you have to look at. So timing was a COVID. Let's say COVID was a big slap of the face for the whole world, and I think we need another 10 years to compile everything that we learned about from the COVID and how to deal about it, how to deal with similar. Hopefully, nothing similar happens. But then even though this was a global thing, and timing is the best, and coachability is the best, and understanding that realizing that you don't have the best idea in the world is the best thing that you could learn, because this makes you look at, or this makes you realize that there is still learning coming to this idea. So just by that realization, I don't have the full picture, I don't have the biggest picture, and this is what we're trying to do, sometimes playing the devil's advocate, sometimes trying to push back on a founder, sometimes actually going, how do I put this, putting that soft force into them, like, no, this is not gonna happen. I'm gonna stop you with a validation of a different business models that didn't happen, and you have to go down into that realization again, and figuring out that even just because it's your idea, even just because you came out with it, it doesn't mean that it is the best out there.
Yeah, but that's interesting, because I'm sure you're dealing with young entrepreneurs that have quite an ego, the passion, the drive, and then you're there trying to play with them and push them back. And
sure, that's why you have to be lovable on the other times of the day. This is where
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you've got
exactly
that.
This is where you have to build the trust, because if they don't trust you with that. So, and again, timing, this is where you pick up the timing on, actually, because you can't tell someone off in the first interaction you have with them. So this is where you pick the timings and to talk to these people and letting them know, listen, okay, so this might work, but I have a good feeling that if you do it differently in 1, 2, 3, it might work better. But then that happens with everyone. Sometimes you find people with less coachability than others. Sometimes, and we're facing this, through the incubation program that we're managing right now. We have lead mentors, we have expert mentors, you have the staff themselves trying to work with the startup, like telling them that this feature is not going to get you anywhere. But then, no, I don't believe all of you. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to spend my investors' money on something that you all said it's not going to work. And sometimes learning the hard way is needed. So you would actually let them go and take the fall, but then you have to be there to pick them up, to help them pick themselves up. You don't pick them up. So that's the thing. And that's what's enjoyable about it. That's you get to see the learning curves of different people shaping up, which is amazing.
With this region, where are we going with regards to entrepreneurship, incubation, etc.? How is it looking?
It is looking amazing. The future is very bright. There are some amazing ecosystems are shaping out there. You look at Saudi, you look at Egypt, you look at Jordan. These are the ecosystem that have been going through this for 10, 15 years now. And there is an amazing change that's happening. UAE, the things that UAE are doing for the ease of doing business for startups, for foreign companies is amazing, and it's something that everyone needs to look for and try to adapt and do something similar. Hopefully having a lot of, I would say, hotspots would change the fate of this region, because this region have been going through a lot over the 200 years back, wars and the Arab Spring and all of these things, and I don't want to get too much political, but the economic ties with the foreign world, the dollar and all of these things, and there are a lot of movements that are happening now to just block or break that chain. With these ecosystem rising up, and I think there will be there will be a lot of change in the positioning of this region and the power scale moving down the road 10 to 15 years from now. Hopefully, we have big players, we have big boxers residing to the west of us. Saudi, Saudi is a heavyweight. It's gonna be heavyweight boxer moving down the road, and they are actually setting the path for a new Middle East, figuratively. I know I'm not talking about borders and stuff, but a new Middle East of positioning within the rest of the world. Of how do you look at the Middle East? How do you look at the GCC region? How do you envision going there? Things are being different, and I hopefully this will pay a lot in the future.
And I've had this conversation with other businesses and businessmen. Do you see a change? Because there are a lot of incubation centers here in Qatar. Do you which is great, but it's that next step when you go to market and set up a business, an official business here in Qatar. Do you see that changing? Because it is a process. It is it's quite expensive to set up a business here. Do you see that changing as well?
Absolutely. It's going to need time, and Qatar and the ecosystem. Qatar has all the infrastructure needed to do this. The technology part of it, the talent part of it, and the support organizations that are there. This is comparing to the size of Qatar and the ecosystem of Qatar. This is an amazing amount, and at some point it will change, but the main and how do I put this in a very correct way? I think taking into consideration that this is a very nascent ecosystem, this is a very new coming up to be an ecosystem. So it's still forming up to look like an ecosystem. I think we have a good way, or a good amount of time, 3 to 5 years, to actually be able to compare with the rest of the region. But then this wouldn't happen unless there is a very collective work from everyone who's participated in the ecosystem. You can't build an ecosystem because it is an ecosystem. This is how you define an ecosystem, which is a amount of a different set of organisms working together. That's how the biological ecosystem. This is how it works. But then you need to have that collective. You need to define the leadership within that ecosystem, which I'm thinking it is there, but needs a bit of some sort of finessing, fine tuning towards having that right mixture of stakeholders within the ecosystem, and then we're going to be off to the races. And this is something that I'm very, very much looking forward to, which is being part of that ignite or that spark when it happens, and actually contributing and hopefully adding value from previous experiences of how did the Jordanian ecosystem back then has shaped, and the role that I played with that, which is something that I'm very, very proud of, and I'd love to channel that experience here towards the Qatari ecosystem.
Well, that's going to be my last question. I'm just curious, because you are still very young. Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years time? Do you see? I know you love that first 20%, but I can see an Enad that literally takes the reign or gets on board on one entrepreneur or a business or several businesses. Do you see yourself like that down the line, like an investor or an angel investor? Or
that's something planned, but I'm gonna work it backwards. But I think in 10 years I would be hitting the 40, 44, 43 something, and by that time I think what I want to do, I want to spare my time or keep my time just to manage my own business, and I'm doing it now on the side. I have a partner who's helping me and supporting me with that business, and actually putting 80% of the time, or managing 80% of the business at that stage, and I'm putting 20% of my time into it now. But then from now till 10 years, I see that part of investment happening. I see some sort of a GP at a VC firm thing happening. But that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, I want to just sit and be free for my business, manage my own business. But I think in 10 years, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can change. You never know how things are going to move on. But I think I would keep sometimes to work with entrepreneurs, to work with startups, maybe on my personal own time, maybe this is something on the side. But the priority and shift would be in 10 years that I've set in CEO and managing my own business.
Well, I see it managing your own business, but you'll have everyone else working for you because you still love that 20%. You don't want to get too much into the 80%.
I'd still have time for a different 20% coming.
Absolutely. There will be plenty of other 20%. Don't you worry. Well, thank you, Enad. It's been a pleasure. It's been enlightening. And thank you for being honest and truthful about your journey, taking us down that road. And it's been fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, guys. Just a big quick shout out to our sponsors, Cards in Qatar, the #1 website for all your cards, birthday cards, greeting cards. And don't forget the promo code THG10 for your first order. Get 10% on your first order. And then Mahaba, the #1 destination guide here in Qatar. Find out all the information that you need to explore Qatar to its fullest. Have a great day. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.